Hi, I'm Annalisa.
I'm Maggie.
I'm Nicole.
And I'm Leah.
We're a team of mental health professionals from Unleashed Counseling.
Welcome to Bibliotherapy, a self-help book club podcast. Let's book it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Bibliotherapy with Unleashed Counseling. We are diving into the second half of Buy Yourself the Effing Lilies and Other Rituals to Fix Your Life. That was good. By Tara Schuster. We're having some technical difficulties already today, so it's fine. Hi, everyone. How are you?
Hey.
Good. Hi.
So let's just, we can just talk again the next 3 minutes about what we just talked about. What did you guys think of the book?
So I loved the first half of the book after we talked about it last time. The second half of the book, I couldn't relate to quite as much. It's divided into 3 parts, right? And the body rituals, the relationship rituals. So the relationships were the ones that lost me. Mm-hmm. She talks about the various boyfriends that were pretty terrible. And she writes thank you notes to them to write them out of her life. And it was funny and I enjoyed it, but I've been out of the dating scene for a little while. So I guess it was a little bit harder to relate to.
Yeah, no, and there was the one chapter, congrats, I'm dating my dad again, find your relationship pattern. I was saying the different steps, and the step 1 is find someone who is good on paper but bad at life. Step 2, get emotionally invested too quickly. Step 3, try to persuade the boy to like you. Step 4, get progressively resentful of having to act like someone you're not, and then go crazy when the relationship doesn't work. And step 5, repeat steps 1 through 4. And when we started to have the technical difficulties, I was saying to Maggie and I were saying about how it reads like that's what you're supposed to do. I was reading it and I was like, I don't relate to this in the way that this is what I want to do. And I've known people who have gone through a step or two of I remember when, I was actually dating, I think in high school, college, where you find someone who has an interest that you might like. So you start to look into it a little bit more to have something to have a commonality with that person. But not quite getting to the resentful part, or trying to persuade someone to like you, those kinds of things. But yeah. That it reads as if that is the 5 steps to getting into a relationship.
But don't do it.
Right.
Yeah, her sarcasm doesn't translate as well, I think, on print as it does in her audio recording.
Yeah.
I'm sure of that. It was, I tend to skip over certain parts when I'm reading. So I'm no, find a guy that doesn't have his life together. I'm wait a second, let me go back here. Why is she telling me to do that? I was oh, it's what not to do. So ill-advised, everyone. It's what not to do. But I did like the part where she wrote letters to all of her exes. That was good. I mean, I'm also the same, can't really relate that well, haven't had very serious relationships. I feel like it would be me just writing letters to guys that have walked out of my life sooner than expected. So it wouldn't be as meaningful as hers are, because I feel like her relationships were longer and more in depth, but still it was so funny to read those. Keats.
Yeah, I think back to some different, I'm not gonna say relationships, but people I've dated in the past, and I can hear hints of it in some of the thank you notes that she's written. And like, it's like, remember that, like, so and so, you know, when you went on this date and this came up, or you know, you went out with a guy who just talked about work all day, or you know, like the whole, you know, just like little things that like came up in those thank you notes. So it's like, yeah, cool. And like I can see the benefits of looking back to what is like something that you could be thankful for in those relationships, because you could easily look back at a lot of them and be like, oh my God, what a waste of time. Or like, wow, why didn't I pick up on the fact that like this guy was doing this or whatever. But like, it's like, okay, now I know what I don't want, or here's a red flag that I didn't realize existed, but we're going to remember this for a future relationship. So that's kind of like what I took away from those pieces of, okay, yeah, like it's like, and going through anything like bad in life, there's, you know, sometimes it's harder to find in some situations than others, but there's still something to take away from that situation that can be helpful.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's valuable to look back at our patterns in relationships, in family relationships, and at work, you know, with whenever we're interacting with other humans, and identify the moments where we wish we would have made other choices, not to berate ourselves, but to just learn about ourselves so that we can make different choices in the future. Her point is well taken. I don't know, I guess it just wasn't quite as engaging for me as the other sections of her book. The others, I actually did slow down this past couple of weeks, and I read it chapter by chapter, just a little bit each day. And I started doing some of the things she was suggesting until we got to the relationship part, when I was like, okay, you lost me there. But I created the vision board, not on the back of my door, but on the back of the partition I use for when I'm doing Zoom conferences, obviously not today and here, but so I started doing my hype man list and my road warriors list. And I went back to the Cleopatra chapter, and I would like to go back to that and talk about that again, if that's okay with you.
Oh, yes.
So remind me what the name of the chapter was.
It was something, finding your Cleopatra, like preparing your day like a ruler or something like that. Very similar to that.
Right. And Maggie, you challenged us to identify who is our Cleopatra, like who do we want to channel when we're getting ready to like conquer the day. And I hadn't read that chapter yet, so I wasn't really sure what she meant. But now that I've read it, and I love how she paints the picture of like lighting the incense and putting on like the, you know, some sexy dark eyeliner, and like just being like embracing her inner goddess, her inner queen. And I was like, you know what? If I have to, like, if I really have to like give my body that love and attention in the morning, my Cleopatra is David Bowie, and not just any David Bowie. It's Jareth, the Goblin King.
Yes.
Right? Give me some amazing music that I can bounce around the room to.
This lion's name is Jareth, by the way, because of his crazy hair.
I love it.
And I do have crazy hair that might occasionally have glitter in it.
Amazing.
But I just see like David Bowie like isn't going to take crap from anyone. Well, past tense, I suppose, sadly. You know, would not care what other people think, is going to put on the eyeliner or whatever he damn well pleases, and is going to be a queen or a king, whatever he was feeling that day.
Amazing.
I absolutely love that.
Just an icon. I feel like there would be a lot of like dancing around the room involved.
There's generally a lot of dancing in my house anyway. So.
Yeah, that's nice. You know, the thing that really stood out to me, especially when she's you know, like comparing some of her relationships to like the relationship with her father, her mom blamed accused the dad of like being inappropriate with her. So like he wasn't present really for her like teen years when she was growing and like going through things, because he was like afraid, you know, to be accused of something like that, which is like heartbreaking. You know, it's like it goes from, you know, her and her sister being separated from each other through their parents' divorce, and that straining their relationship, which she talks about, which, you know, she has this like crazy expectation of what her relationship with her sister should be, and that they should always, you know, talk on the phone once a day and all this stuff. And now you see the other side of it as well. It's just like, it really seems like her mom was such a, I mean, intense person. You know what I mean? Like with the separation of the sisters, and then you know, accusing the dad of this. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and remember in Rachel Hollis's book, she also talks about the moments when her parents failed her. Yeah. And so I couldn't help but sort of compare and contrast their two stories, right? They paint their, at least the mom, as just a terrible person. And it made me wonder, if the moms were to write a memoir, how would the stories be different?
Yeah, that is really interesting.
That is like, I was trying to like figure out, like when I'm reading things like that, like maybe this is the counselor in me, I don't know, but like wanting to know like the cycle of that, like what was mom's situation when she was a kid, how was her mom with her, what was the relationship like with her parents, where that was like the learned behavior in a marriage or in a relationship, and as a mom, right? And it stinks when you think of it in like the situation too of a divorce, that the kids are lost again like they were in the relationship, right? Like in the marriage, it seems like, you know, her mom and dad were very much so into themselves, and also and like kind of butting heads in this marriage. And then when it gets to divorce, it's again using something from your kids to try to get at your spouse. So having her, like, you know, put in the divorce, the custody thing of, you know, hey, here's these pictures that are basically evidence of her like wearing a bathing suit and calling them pornographic, you know, photos in a courtroom and in front of a bunch of people who don't know her, is absolutely, you know, hard to really work through. And then to have that be something that changes your relationship with your father, and then missing out on, like she was saying with prom, like seeing everyone else's dad saying you look beautiful, and like you know, like how wonderful their dresses and those kinds of things, and her dad,
right, and he wouldn't even
like no. It's very sad to hear that. And then what that meant for, you know, Tara's relationships moving forward of, you know, this is kind of what was, you know, I bless you. Sorry. I was trying really hard, but Maggie was like trying to silently
my cover.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. She tried so hard, but I have to say, God bless you.
Thank you.
Anyway, now I can move on. But like seeing that situation when she was a child, and then hearing about some of these relationships of feeling like she had to force somebody to like her and to get these reinforcements, you know, is very, it's very interesting to see that journey for her.
Yeah. And, you know, that happens so often when people are getting divorced and they have kids, and they have, you know, firsthand experience. I had a very close friend when I was younger. Her parents got a divorce, and it was like that inseparable best friend. So we would go back and forth between her mom's house and her dad's house. And when we were at her dad's house, her mom was calling like my mom and being like, you know where your daughter is? And then same vice versa. Like when I was at the other house, they would call my mom. And it was like, oh my God, just trying to use any type of fuel, of ammunition to get at the other parent. And it's just like, you were married to this person, you know, you had children with this person, and these, you know, kids grow up and have really, really difficult times, like with relationships and friendships because of that. And it's upsetting because you hear about these kids that have to go through the court system and you know, testify on behalf of either parent and pick who they want to go live with. And you know, I couldn't imagine. Hey listeners, after you're done listening, check out our awesome guide that is jacked full of ideas to practice self-care. Here's why you should grab up your free guide now. Because we love you. Because you deserve a break. Because if you continue to go at the pace you're going, you'll burn out. Because you may actually have forgotten how to do self-care. What are you waiting for? Head over to selfcaretips.org/free guide and give yourself permission to do that thing that makes you happy.
It's traumatic, right? What these authors are describing, what they're sharing in their memoirs, the after effects of trauma, and to Nicole's point, the aftershocks of intergenerational trauma, right? So how did grandma or grandpa treat, you know, mom or dad before they had kids and started treating me this way? And so I want to acknowledge and give major props to Tara Schuster and to Rachel Hollis and to everybody else who goes through the incredibly difficult work of becoming self-aware, of noticing, figuring out, rooting out what those negative patterns are and fixing it. So like they speak in these wonderfully, you know, they try to make light of it for the purpose of the reader, right? They're making these jokes, letting us laugh with them. But the truth is, it was incredibly difficult work. And it's not just journaling. It's not just going for a run every day. Like, this is deep, like soul-wrenching work. And they're breaking the cycle of the intergenerational trauma. And if Tara Schuster ever has kids, they're going to benefit from this incredible work she's done. And those of us who read it and relate to her, and even if we can't relate to everything she says, you know, we're also inspired to do the hard work of breaking the intergenerational trauma so that we can pass on something better to our own kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, you know, it's like when you go through that trauma, it's, you know, there are two directions, you know, that people can take. It's either they want to steer completely clear from those behaviors and what they've seen, or they go down the same road, which either way, it's just, it depends, you know, it depends on how difficult the situation is, what type of person you are. And, you know, just imagine trying to, like you said, break the cycle, but also trying to identify who you are, you know, when both of your parents are displaying these qualities that you don't want to have. And they're your parents. You're literally an extension of the two of them. And you have to decide who you're going to be instead of them. And that's just like a really, really hard thing to do. So yeah, props to T Money.
She'll high five you for that.
Yes.
I love that.
T Money, if you're listening.
So to transition from this section into one that like I really kind of started to go into was the one that I have the best bras, how to love that thing about your body you think you hate. Listen, I loved it. Here's the thing. She explains so well of like, okay, you know what? I had like, when she was younger, I was bigger chested. I wanted to like conceal them or like didn't treat them with the utmost respect and put them in those shelf bras that give you like the uniboob look.
This chapter is literally written about me.
Yeah,
So.
I felt it. I felt like semi-attacked because I was like listening to how she was like, yeah, like you get like these nice quality bras and yada yada yada, and I'm like, all right,
Easier
listen,
said than done, T-Money.
right? Like,
And Nicole, it reminded me of us the other day when we were talking about buying new pants, you know, because we have holes in all of our pants during this pandemic. And I'm just, you know, it's like, get yourself some good bras, get yourself some good pants. And it's like, that's a lot to do.
I have to get dressed.
Yeah.
so
In
yeah,
a pandemic, I have to dress myself.
And it's like, you know, it's like, can you even go try stuff on at like a lingerie store yet? I don't think that's a thing yet. It doesn't sound like it is. You know, you can go get measured, but that's like the extent of it. It's like, I refuse to buy online. No.
For the listeners out there, a couple of days ago, so I've been transitioning to more in-person sessions, right? Being in the office since I'm #fully vaccinated.
Yeah. #vaxxed.
I went into the office and realized I had a hole in my pants. Like right before I was having an in-person session, and it was one of those moments of, okay, I need to dress like my whole self and not just from like the shoulders up. I have to be more mindful, and I have since then realized I have 2 other pairs of pants that have holes in them. Both are leggings, which probably are from like the overuse over the past like year. But when reading this chapter, right, I was thinking, okay, like her bras are like my pants. Like I just get something that's like semi okay, you know, like
right,
I got
you're like, I want prime comfort, and I want prime cheapness. Inexpensive materials, please.
Exactly. And like her way of like explaining like, oh, like I was bigger chested and I didn't know how to properly dress. Like I am a shorter individual, but I also have I inherited my Italian family's sides of like my booty area. So when it
all the right curves.
Yes, I am a curvy individual, and when it comes to finding pants, it's either too long or like my butt's too, you know, too curvy for the pants to handle, and so it makes it very difficult, right? So like when you were talking about getting online clothing, yeah, that's like non-existent when it comes to pants, right? So I decided after reading this to get actual pants. I went out and I got like legit pants that I probably spent a little bit more than I usually would, and it just
real pants.
Yeah, like real big girl pants.
Nicole was wearing invisibility cloak pants up to this point.
I love that, like, self-help can take you in so many directions, right? Go to therapy, hydrate yourself. And in this case, the takeaway is buy pants.
And good quality pants. People get what you pay for.
I'm with her on the bras, though. I was really inspired at, like, I'm going to save money. And like she said, go out and buy like a real designer, not from the place with the angel wings, you know, like
yes.
private boutique bra. Like, why not treat ourselves like goddesses, right?
When she talks about buying the lingerie when she's in Paris,
oh my
I'm
goodness.
like, pack my bags, get my passport, I want to go now. And like I even put a little flag next to when she says something about like bathing, like taking a bath in Paris, any bathtub in Paris. I've never been to Paris, and I like desperately want to go. And when she talks about that, I'm like, I can't even get a nice bra in America. I need to go to Paris to do it.
So excellent segue into the final chapter.
Yeah.
It was so, as she said, a
Yeah.
little frivolous, a little silly, and also just so beautiful.
Amazing.
So she returns to Paris after, so she was there in her early 20s, but smoked so much weed and just like didn't give it the love that Paris deserved, right?
Yeah, and the bad weed, she said.
Yeah,
not the good,
Yeah.
not the good kind.
right. And so as a grown-up, 10 years later, she says, I'm going to take myself back to Paris and romance myself. And not only that, I'm going to get myself a Chanel purse. And her description of like standing in line to be waited on and given a champagne, and it's just
Can
so
you
beautiful.
imagine?
Oh my
Let's take a
gosh.
field trip.
Please. When we're able to like do these things, that'd be awesome. We should totally do a retreat there. I'm just saying.
When they let us leave the country again.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I have many favorite spots in Paris that I would love to introduce you to.
Oh
I
yeah.
used to spend a great deal of time there.
That's
Never
cool.
bought a Chanel purse in Paris, but I guess I need to go back and
Yeah.
apply for a new credit card. Apparently, doubt I can afford that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just love how she wraps up this story of introspection and self-awareness and some pain and trauma with like this beautiful story of coming into her own and taking care of herself and feeling confident, as she romances herself in Paris.
It was like right after her dad had like a health scare as well. So after everything,
and she made peace.
Yeah, and they they had a beautiful like mending together during that time, and he just kept telling her, you've done everything right, you are doing everything right. And it was just like the reassurance that she always wanted and needed from him, from both of her parents, that she never got. And it's, sometimes it's sad, but if it's at that point, and it's never too late. I guess that's what I'm saying is, things can be rough all over and people can be estranged from each other. But when it comes down to, like near death and scary medical experiences and stuff like that, it's like, you learn what's important, and that, that part was just hit me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like a lot of times we say that we want to do all these things, right? But it's like we always have time. So it seems like in that moment of like a near death experience or a time where, especially with medical issues, right, not knowing where things are going to go, taking the chances that you have to really mend things, or at least, trying to get to a point where you can see each other's perspectives is pretty awesome. And I think something that a lot of people have been experiencing recently, right? Of like not really knowing how things are going to go and taking the opportunity, whether it's in person or virtually, to still continue to connect in a way that is meaningful, because we don't know what the future is going to hold.
It's very true. T-Money, you did it. So, what are we reading next, guys?
I would like to go off the list and recommend a different book, if that's okay with everyone.
Let's do it.
Lisa's going rogue.
So, You Are a Badass: How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life by Jen Sincero.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yes.
I always wanted to know how to be a badass.
We're already badasses, but we're going to get more badass in here.
Yeah, badasser.
Heck yeah.
The badassest.
Awesome. Well, so we'll talk to you again in 2 weeks after we read the first half of Jen Sincero's book.
See you then.
Sounds great, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.